This is my post-fight reaction to Tszyu versus Bakhram Murtazaliev. This was a very interesting fight. The way it started off, I felt like Bakhram baited Tszyu early on, tried to make him seem like he was close in the fight, and he had a chance to be competitive as far as in the exchanges. But Bakhram wasn't really looking to exchange with Tszyu as far as going punch for punch. What he wanted to do was put Tszyu in a position where he had to counter punch. And that's when Tszyu was coming forward and tried to be able to lean a certain way. And Bakhram came towards him, threw a quick left hook. And it looked like it was a jab, but it turned out to be a left hook. And Bakhram went back to the jab later on and ended up hurting Tszyu again. Tszyu never was able to recover. His legs went out worse and worse every time he got dropped. He got dropped 3 times in the second round. After he got dropped in the first round, got dropped 3 times in the second round, which was not a good thing for him to be able to go through that situation and get dropped that many times. And the third time he got dropped in the second round was 10 seconds before the clock went out. And that caused a lot of issues for him because he used a lot of energy to survive that round. And the referee saved him because Bakhram was all over him after those last 10 seconds. And for a lot of people that forgot, I was alluding to early on this year when people were saying that Tszyu possibly won that fight against Fedor all because of the blood. That's the only reason he lost. I told everybody out here, I said, hey man, I'm a Tszyu fan. I'm a fan of Tszyu. I think he's a very good fighter. But y'all are giving him way too much credit for fighting with the blood on his face. I said he has to be able to get past a jab. I said blood don't stop you. Don't make you get hit by a jab. Plenty of times people said, well, your vision is messed up. I said, well, Fedor had blood in his eyes before Tszyu did. I mean, people grow up boxing all the time. And Bakhram said this before the fight. He said Tszyu was making a big deal about the blood and everything else. This is boxing. That happens all the time. And I said, wow, I said this a couple of months ago. And then Bakhram comes around and says, I'm going out there and stop him and everything else. I'm like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? And people have to realize these guys mean what they say. A lot of people just say things. That's why boxing is so confusing, because you got a lot of boxers who just say stuff, and then you have a lot of boxers who mean what they say. And Bakhram is one of those guys. And when Tszyu tried to go in there and go punch for punch with Bakhram, he was being more aggressive after being knocked down. Instead of getting his legs back and trying to recover, he was trying to brawl with the guy with his legs not under him. Tszyu's legs was not under him, so he wasn't able to sit on his punches, and he was catching punches and counter punches flush and was not able to recover. Ended up getting stopped in the third round after getting dropped 4 or 5 times. I know a lot of people said 4 times, 5 times. A lot of times. It had to be like 5 times. And it was a very, very interesting fight, man. This guy ended up getting dominated. I wouldn't say it was a chin problem. I'll say after he got caught with that first shot, he was never able to recover. Never. And I know a lot of people will look at this and be like, well, you know, things like that happen in the fight. They do, but you also want to be aware of your adjustments. And I think a lot of people patting Tszyu on the back and letting him know how good he was in the Fedor fight instead of saying, hey, man, maybe you should work on your jab. Hey, man, maybe you should work on this. Hey, man, maybe you should work on that. They never let him work on his jab. And with him never working on his jab or never looking at it situation like nothing's wrong with it, because everybody said, hey, as long as I do the same thing I did last time, I'll be able to win the fight. They think I won the last fight. And a lot of people thought he won the last fight. So he's looking at it like, hey, Why would I change anything when I just won the last fight with Fundora and people think I won it if I wasn't bleeding on with my cut? So, and then if you look in the fight, he thought he was bleeding. He stopped everything, started wiping his head, and that just showed me right there. I'm like, man, he's subconsciously, he's not all the way into the fight. He's still thinking about what if. And a lot of things went wrong. A lot of things went Bakhram's way. I think Tszyu just got caught way too early. Never was able to recover. He's not a guy who's defensively all the way there. Like I was telling people with Madrimov is a lot more defensive than Tszyu is. And Tszyu is a better puncher, different kind of puncher. But Madrimov is a guy who's well aware of his where he's at in the ring. With a guy like Bakhram throwing that left hook, Madrimov would have been got out the way. He would have said, hey, I can't stand here in this guy's range. He's throwing some hard left hooks. And with Tszyu, he was not able to pick that up fast enough. It didn't really click. And by the time he did realize it, he was trying to press forward. And Bakhram was like, man, you're in my range. So Bakhram's backing up, keeping him in that range. Boom, another left hook, another right hook. So he doesn't even have to really adjust and move around. And ended up stopping Tszyu in the third round, man. Tszyu is going to have a rough patch trying to get back into this. But like I said before, when you're a guy who's going out here trying to face the toughest competition, things like that happen. You probably will lose 2 fights in a row. A lot of people said they felt like he won his last fight. But like I said before, that jab has to be fixed. It has to have adjustments. If not, you're going to be on the outside looking in. And you might end up being the loser in the end of the day. Something has to be changed, though. Especially with that jab. You had a huge challenge already fighting a guy that was 6'5", 6'6", and 154 with Fundora. Now you fighting a guy that's like 6'2". And this guy's bigger than Janovic at 54. So people have to realize that guy wasn't a small guy. That was a huge specimen he was in the ring with at 154. That's probably going to be one of the biggest 154s you ever see in your life. You know what I'm saying? But that's what he had to conquer. And those are tough challenges he wanted. And I got to give him credit for that because a lot of guys, Tszyu was just fighting Bakhram, who was Jermell Charlo's mandatory from 2020. So he was Charlo's mandatory 4 years ago before Charlo fought Castano for an undisputed. So both of these guys are Jermell Charlo and mandatories fighting each other tonight. And we've seen the results. We know that those fights were tough, and we know those are not easy fights like everybody thought. But that's all I got. Like and subscribe.